This is a souvenir to thank you for looking after my daughter for a year. My sister Sana, who had just returned from a year-long world cruise with her husband, said something shocking. Thanks for taking care of my daughter for a year. We had a great time because of you. So, where is she? I couldn't understand what my sister was talking about. If it was a long trip, wouldn't you normally take your child with you? I asked, surprised. Huh? What do you mean by child? I don't know anything about that. What? I left her at the front door. Left her child at my front door? Why would she do that? Even if she did, I didn't know about it. I had no memory of seeing Sana's child. I don't understand. It's hard to believe, but my selfish sister apparently left her daughter at my front door when they departed for their cruise, expecting me to take care of her for the entire year. This thoughtless act of my sister led to a serious situation. Naturally, my sister turned pale with realization at what she had done. My name is Mary, and I'm 26 years old. A few years ago, I met my husband in a social club and got married. Fortunately, my husband is a serious and hard-working man, and despite these tough times, we're living comfortably. To support my busy husband, I quit my job and became a housewife after we got married. Currently, we don't have children. Even after 2 years of marriage, we haven't been blessed with a child. Still, we enjoy our time together and help each other, living happily. I have a sister, Sana, who is 2 years younger than me. Sana has a selfish streak, and my serious personality always got dragged around by her whims. Our parents were worried about her and often scolded her, but she never listened and rebelled since childhood. Sana lived as she pleased, dropped out of college on a whim, and eloped with her classmate, John. My sister, who acts without thinking and always causes trouble for our parents. After eloping, Sana was missing for several years. One day, she suddenly showed up at our house holding a baby. Hey Mary, long time no see. Do you remember me? Even though it had been years, she still looked the same as before. Sana? Where have you been? We were all worried. How did you even find my place? Come in, I want to hear everything. Once inside, she explained that the baby was her child with John, the guy she eloped with, and they got married. I was curious about how Sana, who was lazy and never helped around the house, managed her life after dropping out of college. Years had passed, and now that she was married with a child, I wondered if she had become more responsible. John and I are getting by with part-time jobs. We didn't plan for the baby, but we have to take care of her. It's such a drag. She's always crying. Since dropping out and running away, John had been working part-time, but their income was unstable, so Sana also reluctantly started working. Both of them had part-time jobs, but I wondered how they managed with a baby. I hoped that becoming a parent had made Sana grow as a person. I wanted to believe that despite her complaints, she was taking care of her child properly. Given how selfish she is, I doubted she could handle it while working part-time. It must be tough with such a small child. I asked cautiously. I hate not having any time for myself. You don't have kids, right? Your house is nice, and you seem to be living well. I didn't know how she found out, but Sana knew my husband and I didn't have children. Yes, it's just me and my husband now. He's busy with work, so I'm a housewife. That's what I wanted to check. You don't have kids and you're a housewife, so you must have plenty of time. I thought I saw a sly smile on my sister's face. Dad and Mom are worried about you. Now that you have a child, why not visit them and apologize for all the trouble you caused? No way. I never want to see those annoying people again. They'll just lecture me all over again. Maybe she really hated being raised strictly, but she had no intention of reconciling with our parents. From my perspective as her older sister, she was sloppy, selfish, and never listened to anyone. Plus, she was boy crazy. With a sister like this, our parents had no choice but to be strict, which made them nag a lot. No matter what anyone said, she never reflected on her actions. Instead, she always found a way to escape and act cunningly. So Mary, count on you when I'm in trouble. You're the only one I can rely on." She left with a sweet tone, but when she asked for help, it reminded me of how she used to drag me around, giving me a bad feeling. That bad feeling came true in the worst way. One day, I came back from shopping and heard a baby crying from the front door. In a panic, I approached and recognized the baby immediately. "It's Sanaa's child." I was confused as to why Sanaa's child was at my doorstep. I quickly called Sanaa. When she answered, she only said one thing. "I have something to do, so take care of her." She hung up without giving any reason, leaving me in a daze. I couldn't just leave the baby at the door, so I decided to take care of her until Sanaa contacted me again. "Sanaa, you should at least explain why. Dropping off a baby suddenly is shocking. It's a good thing I was able to reach you. I was worried something might have happened." I muttered complaints in my mind while soothing the baby and waiting for Sanaa. After some time, Sanaa finally showed up. She was dressed in a flashy, revealing outfit that was popular among young people, totally inappropriate for a mother. "What's with that outfit? Where were you, leaving a baby behind?" Angrily, I questioned Sanaa about her reckless behavior. "I was having lunch with friends," she shamelessly answered, not showing any guilt. "You left your baby at my door just for that? What if something happened to her?" "Well, if I had asked first, you might have said no. Besides, nothing happened, right? It's fine. You're home all day anyway, so you must have time." Sanaa's selfishness hadn't changed. Without our parents' supervision, it seemed to have gotten worse. Even as a housewife, I wasn't just sitting around doing nothing. I became a housewife to support my busy husband. "I get that you want to have fun, but now that you're a parent, you need to think about your child." I was worried that a parent who prioritized having fun could safely raise a child, so I tried to be firm with her, but Sanaa argued back. "I was giving you a chance to experience taking care of a child since you don't have one. You should be grateful." She dodged my concerns with excuses. It was no use. She didn't understand that what she did was wrong. "Didn't you find your blood-related niece adorable? I'll let you babysit her occasionally." She even acted like she was doing me a favor. No wonder our parents struggled with her. Sanaa would use any trick to get others to do what she wanted, just to make her own life easier. The conversation went nowhere, and the day ended. Realizing that I couldn't abandon the baby, Sanaa started to take advantage and leave her baby with me more often. I had no idea where she was going, but she frequently dropped off the baby and went out. It was less like babysitting and more like she was dumping the child on me. What on earth was her husband, John, doing? Did he know she was leaving their child like this? Regardless, I was also troubled by this, and I complained to Sanaa many times, but she just brushed it off. It was hard to believe her nerve, but I kept trying to persuade her. "I have my own things to do, and I might not even notice if you leave the baby without saying anything. Please, don't leave her like that. I don't mind helping occasionally, but don't treat it like it's a given." Then, suddenly, Sanaa stopped visiting. Maybe she finally understood after all my efforts. Recently, Sanaa hasn't come by to leave her baby. Maybe my persistence paid off, and she reconsidered. I thought Sanaa had finally turned over a new leaf and was seriously taking care of her child. Finally, she understood. I optimistically believed she was handling things herself. Time passed peacefully, and I stopped thinking about my sister. Nearly a year went by. Then one day, Sanaa showed up alone, smiling, after almost a year. "Hey Mary, long time no see." "Sanaa? It's been a while. What have you been up to?" "I've had a great time for the past year. I miss the air here in the States. Let me in, and I'll tell you all about it." When she visited, she told me she and her husband, John, had been enjoying a year-long world cruise together. She talked proudly about how fun the cruise was, sharing stories about the countries they visited, the good things about those places, and the delicious food they had. Since they were traveling as a couple, I assumed they took their child with them. That's why there was no news from them for a year, I thought. Sana gave me several unusual souvenirs from overseas. And then, this is a thank you gift for looking after my daughter for a year. She said something shocking. Thanks for taking care of my daughter for a whole year. Where is she? I couldn't understand what my sister was saying. If they were traveling as a couple, wouldn't they naturally take their child with them? Huh? What are you talking about? I don't know anything about that. What? You left her at my front door. Even hearing that, I had no idea what she was talking about. I didn't remember seeing her child at all. I don't understand. It was hard to believe, but apparently, they had left their child at my front door when they departed for their year-long cruise, intending for me to take care of her all that time. I had warned her about the dangers of leaving a child like that, and now my worst fear had come true. Thinking back, if they went on the cruise for a year, they must have left around this time last year. Around this time last year, I remember getting a message from a friend about my high school teacher's retirement celebration. I went back to my hometown to celebrate with friends. And my husband was on a business trip, so neither of us were home. It must have been then. Sana left her child at my door when no one was home. We need to call the police right away. The child might have been taken by someone with bad intentions. Panicking, I prepared to call the police. Wait! Sana raised her voice in a panic. If you do that, it'll become a big deal. We don't need to involve the police, we can find her ourselves. Even though this was a serious matter, Sana was strangely opposed to calling the police. What are you talking about? Your child is missing. We need to find her quickly. Let's look for her ourselves first. We'll find her soon, I'm sure. Desperately, Sana tried to stop me. If we call the police, I might get arrested. Sana was afraid that her actions might lead to criminal charges, so she begged me to look for the child without involving the police. With her child missing and the police getting involved, Sana finally realized the gravity of what she had done. She didn't know what had happened to her child. She didn't even know if she was safe. Even in this situation, Sana was only thinking about saving herself. She was unbelievably selfish. I warned you it was dangerous. But you ignored me, over and over, irresponsibly. No normal parent would abandon their child like that. This was the result of her selfish actions. I was so angry. Dumping your child on someone else just so you can go out and have fun? That makes you an unfit mother. Where did you go, dressed like that? I'm gonna talk to your husband, John. Talking to Sana was getting nowhere. I decided to involve her husband, John. Don't do that. Seriously, it's a hassle. John has nothing to do with this. I'll talk to him myself, so don't meddle. Sana freaked out when I mentioned John's name. I was taken aback by her reaction. Why are you so anxious? Does John even know that you've been leaving your child with me repeatedly? Realizing she had revealed too much, Sana took a deep breath and said, Mary, you're freaking out too much. It's kind of funny how desperate you are. Calm down a bit. She tried to deflect with a sneer, but she was clearly rattled. Something was off. I was suggesting reasonable actions to resolve the situation, but Sana was desperately trying to stop me. With a child missing, talking to her husband John seemed natural, but her reaction was odd. Was she hiding something from John? I don't know if you'll get arrested, but your child is missing. She might have been kidnapped. We need to find her first. We can't do this without the police. Do you even care if I get arrested? I'm your sister. How could you be so cruel? Worried about the child's safety, I insisted on going to the police, but Sana kept stopping me, fearing arrest. Fine. For now, I'll hold off, but you need to talk to John. I said that for now, but I didn't trust Sana. She seemed to be hiding something, fearing John's reaction to the missing child, or maybe there was another reason. Seeing how she wanted to keep this from John, I wondered if there was abuse at home, but I couldn't be sure. Sana wanted to look for her child on our own. But we didn't have time for that. I really wanted to talk to John, but given Sanaa's reaction, it seemed difficult, and he might be as uncooperative as her. I decided to talk to the police without telling Sanaa. The child had been missing for a year. There was no point in searching blindly. We needed the police's help. So, I explained to the police that my sister had left her child at my front door before leaving on a trip, and the child had gone missing.
I can't believe your sister did that.
The police took the situation seriously and acted quickly. I cooperated as much as possible to help the investigation move forward. The police searched desperately, and after a while, I got a call saying they had found the baby. I was deeply relieved that she was safe. I was glad I didn't listen to Sanaa and went to the police. According to the police, a neighbor had noticed the crying baby at our front door a year ago and took her in. They had reported it to Child Protective Services. And the baby had been placed in a foster care facility. The baby had been growing up healthily at the facility. All of this had happened while my husband and I were away, so we had no way of knowing. Sanaa's selfish actions had involved the police and child services, causing a big commotion, but the baby was safely found.
I found your child,
I reported to Sanaa. I didn't mention the police. I just said that a neighbor had found the baby and reported it to child services, who had taken care of her.
Wow, Mary. You really are different, having so much free time as a housewife. Thanks for finding her.
She was as carefree as ever.
Is John not home? I wanted to see him. John's working a part-time job today. His pay's low, so he has to work a lot. It's better when my husband is busy and away. It's easier for me, too.
Sanaa seemed relieved to have the baby back, oblivious to the fact that we had involved the police and all the trouble we went through. Then she muttered to herself,
"Thank goodness. Now John won't find out. If he knew about this, it would be a disaster."
Sanaa clearly had a secret she didn't want John to know.
With the baby back and John kept in the dark about this, everything's fine.
Despite the serious situation, Sanaa remained carefree. She seemed to think that everything was fine as long as it ended well. She had always lived by avoiding anything inconvenient to her. I handed the child back to Sanaa and left her house. But this wasn't the end of the story. One day, someone knocked on Sanaa's door.
"Who is it?"
Looking outside, I saw the police. Because I had reported the child missing, the police had come to Sanaa's place on suspicion of child abandonment. Unaware of this, Sanaa panicked at the sudden appearance of the police.
"The police? I didn't do anything wrong."
She turned pale. I stepped forward from behind the officers. The police had asked me to accompany them when they visited Sanaa's house. So I had come with them to see her.
"Why are you here with the police, Mary? Did you tell them about the child? I told you not to make a fuss."
Sanaa started to get angry, but I continued.
"What are you talking about? The child went missing a year ago. There's no way we could have found her by ourselves."
Sanaa glared at me resentfully.
"Sanaa, give it up. This situation is too serious. You need to atone for your actions and reflect on what you did."
I realized that it was beyond my ability to reform Sanaa. This was a serious incident that could have cost a life. It broke my heart, but I couldn't let my sister get away with it. Cornered, Sanaa pointed at me and said something unbelievable. "No, it was Mary. She kidnapped my child because she wanted one for herself." She was trying to pin the blame on me. My sister, who had abandoned her child to go out and have fun, was now accusing me, the one who had found her child, of being the kidnapper. I was stunned by her audacity. However, the police, who had heard everything from me and knew Sanaa's character, said with exasperation, "If you don't admit your guilt, your punishment will be more severe." "It was Mary who kidnapped her. What did I do wrong? Do you have any proof that I did anything?" "We do have proof.
The security camera caught you leaving the child at the front door."
In fact, the police had already seen the footage from the security camera I had installed, showing Sanaa leaving the baby at our front door. Because of Sanaa's past behavior, I had installed the camera for extra security.
What? I didn't know about that. That's an invasion of privacy.
Sanaa started to get angry upon hearing she had been recorded. At that moment, John came home from his part-time job. He looked shocked. It was understandable, given that the police were there and his wife Sanaa was causing a scene. "What is going on here?" he asked, looking puzzled at Sanaa.
Well, there's a reason for this.
"Hi, I'm Mary, Sanaa's sister." I tried to explain the situation to John, who clearly didn't understand what was happening.
Wait, let me explain.
"Sanaa, be quiet." I stopped her because she had tried to frame me. There was no telling what she might say to John. I stopped Sanaa, who was yelling and trying to interrupt, and continued to speak. I explained that Sanaa had abandoned her child at our house. The child had been missing for a year, the police found her, and now Sanaa was facing charges of child abandonment.
This can't be true. That's not what I heard. Sanaa told me that her sister and her husband happily took care of our child. Why did you do this?
Struggling to raise a child on a part-time income, John had believed that my husband and I, with our stable income, were taking care of their child.
We had no choice. John, your part-time job doesn't pay enough, and I'm too busy to look after the baby. If you were so hard up that you couldn't take care of your child, how did you afford a year-long world cruise?
John's face changed color. Sanaa looked like she realized she had made a mistake. John turned red with anger. "What is this about a world cruise?" When Sanaa had visited us before with souvenirs, she mentioned the trip, but John seemed completely unaware of it.
I had my suspicions, Sanaa. You go out late at night, wearing revealing clothes. What's going on? Well, who did you go on that world cruise with? Tell me the truth. If you don't, I'll find out soon enough.
Overwhelmed by John's intensity, Sanaa couldn't come up with her usual excuses and began to confess.
The truth is, I was having an affair with a guy. I lied to you, John, and went on the trip with my lover.
To my surprise, Sanaa had gone on the world cruise not with her husband John but with her lover, Harry. The flashy clothes she often wore were for her dates with Harry. Sanaa had used me to dump her child so she could have secret dates with her lover. John had believed her lies, which is why he didn't notice her absence for a year.
Sanaa told me she was going home to take care of her sick father. She said he was seriously ill and wouldn't be back for a year.
Her father is perfectly healthy. I saw him recently, and he's doing just fine. Sanaa hasn't gone near her parents for years. How could she lie about taking care of them? John was stunned. It was understandable. His wife, who he thought was caring for her sick father, had actually been traveling the world with another man. "I'm sorry, John. I love you, but I also fell for Harry's kindness." As a bartender, Harry was paid to be kind to his customers, but Sanaa had fallen for his act. "At first, we only met at the club. Then we started dating outside, and before I knew it, we were in deep."
How long have you been involved with this bartender? I always thought the child didn't look like me. Could it be?
"I'm sorry." Sanaa broke down in tears. "The truth is, Harry is the father of the child." It was chaos. The child was not John's, but the result of Sanaa's affair with Harry. That explained her behavior when the child went missing. She was terrified of John finding out about the affair. John was speechless from the shock.
I can't raise a child that's not mine. We're getting divorced. Go raise the child with that guy. Please forgive me. I really love you, John. Harry was just a fling. I don't care. We're done.
Furious, John threw Sanaa out of the house. All of this happened because of Sanaa's selfishness. It was her own fault. Sanaa broke down in tears again. "You need to come with us to the station." Sanaa was then taken away by the police. She was arrested on charges of child abandonment. She was prosecuted and found guilty. John could not forgive Sana for having a child with her lover and for being arrested. He sent her divorce papers. San thought that she would do well and that we would never find out, but her plans went awry. My husband found out about the affair and is divorcing me. I got arrested over the incident with the child. Now, you're all I have left. Harry sighed inwardly. Please wait for me to get out of jail, and then we can be together and create a happy family for our child, Sana pleaded, but to Harry, she was just a client and a casual fling. Fed up with the trouble caused by Sana's reckless actions, Harry abandoned her and their child, disappearing without a trace. Left to fend for herself, Sana had to rely on her parents, whom she had previously despised, as she couldn't support her child on her part-time job alone. Her parents took her in and began to strictly discipline her. As time passed and the incident faded, I noticed a change in my own health. Thinking I might be pregnant, I went to the hospital and my suspicions were confirmed. When I told my husband, he was overjoyed. Despite his busy work schedule, he helped with house chores and took care of me. The following year, I gave birth to our much-anticipated first child. Now, we live happily as a family of 3. No longer troubled by my sister and enjoying peaceful days.